Question. Guido, maybe you'll stand up here. Please, no counter lectures in this part because we have to be rather brief. We want to reach the concluding panel discussion as well. So brief questions are welcome at this point. No one, yes.
Yeah, thanks to all the presenters for fascinating presentations. I wonder if, maybe the way that one would deal with these different terms is to allow Maimonides' line of argument to carry the day in how we might understand or translate that. And that is to say, if there is a difference in terms of the argument between khiyal and wahy, then we should translate them with different terms. I am not sure that we have a very clear distinction between what those two terms do in terms of argument. I think it's great that Michael Schwartz found Dimion and Dimion Shav, right? But I wonder if you have identified a way in which they really fit differently into the argument.
I prefer Torah Shebiktav and Torah Shebal Peh. What the answer to your question is written here. There is no clear-cut solution to the distinction between the two. But, Maimonides mentions these two terms maybe close to 200 times in his guide. It's amazing. It appears all over the book. So, and I collect all of them. I read all the, I'm working in Arabic and trying to find out really if there is. I didn't come to a clear-cut solution. It just, it remains as it remains. But besides that, I must tell you that my lecture is part of a wide writing about these two terms. And I checked beside Maimonides, Yehuda Levi, for example. And Yehuda Levi uses these two terms in a different way. But I didn't want to discuss it, but at least I can tell you that it was important either to Yehuda Levi, even to Rashbam, to use them in a different way than Maimonides. And I think even Maimonides responded in a way to the use of these terms by Riyad. But this was out of my discussion, and I didn't want to, because it's a work in process, and I didn't want to go into also to the what she mentioned about the Greek Aristotle about using the Dimion or whatever, because this is a much more wider topics that I don't want to deal with this paper. So let's leave it as it is.
Thank you.
Yes.
We have to take into account Avicenna's. We have to take into account Avicenna's position and also the way in which Maimonides responds to Avicenna. Now, Hatz was some new, not invention, but the use of Avicenna was something new, and this was part of his theory of prophecy, which means Hatz is way, as more or less is also explained in Sefer HaMitzvot, by which people can attain knowledge, something like a shortcut. I mean, they don't have to follow a very long procedure or protocol of learning and thinking and so on and reading, because the meaning of intuition in this context is attaining the knowledge in a somewhat miraculous way, really in a very short time. And for Avicenna, this was a way, or one of his means to explain the phenomenon of prophecy, which means the prophets know what other normal scholars know after a very, very, very long process of learning. And the prophets attain the same knowledge on a very high level in a very short span of time. Maimonides seems, at least in part, to disagree with this, and even to compare this Hudson's Abyssinian to some kind of, at least people see it as some kind of what should I say, like sorcery or I mean, an illegal way of attaining knowledge. Because Maimonides was closer to the position of Farabi, who was not in favor of Hudson's, was before Avicenna, and for him, as Maimonides himself thought, that Aristotle actually was on more or less the same level as Moses. But this doesn't say that Moses did not have to learn or to go through a long process of attaining knowledge. And because of that, you see that the Hutz is presented here in a somewhat negative attitude. And therefore also Kafech translated it by the Hebrew, by the Hebrew term Misha'arim, which means to speculate, to guess, or something like that. So this is not the proper way. These are very, very clever people who can really grasp the situation in a very short time. They are cleverer than most people, and therefore they seem to have some special degree of knowledge which others don't have. But this is, as Maimonides presents it, this is not correct or not true. But I mean, Gideon, I think that this whole issue of Abyssinian terminology, this is Wahm, this is Khayal, and it's true that Yehuda Halevi apparently used these terms positively, following Avicenna, and Maimonides did not accept it. So there is a lot in the literature, in the research of let's say the last century about it, especially about Avicenna. So I think it's worth looking into this.
Thank you.
Body of knowledge.
Thank you for not asking me a question, just clarify Moses' situation. But I must tell you, because when Maimonides, it's a different papers that I have in mind, that I wrote, but I didn't publish yet. It's the emphasis of Maimonides is so accurate, or all his derivatives, to come to conclusion by reason or by logic inference. I think he has a polemics against the Sufi movement. And because the Sufi movement, the way of emphasize them, I said it yesterday, but only in this short note, because Sufis mention ma'arifa. It means to get knowledge of God through a way of, chavaya datit, a mystical excitement. And Maimonides, you can see sometimes is responding to this way of attaining knowledge. Therefore, he emphasized all the time reason. Here, in my case, I didn't see any traces of the Sufism. But in other cases, I can assure you that Maimonides' polemics is against Sufism, especially against Razali. And because Razali explained in his book on Sama, whatever is a vehicle to attain knowledge by Sufis, he emphasizes experience and excitement. And Maimonides argue against him, and it's clear that the question, I don't want to go into detail now, but it's clear that the ratio of knowledge against alternatives that are not real true way to knowledge of God it's a wide range, and And Maimonides relate to it also in different ways in his guide.
Just maybe want to follow up on Chagai's question to all of you, maybe especially to Dov and Gidon, and the fascinating exploration of the terms. Can you jump to a larger issue, which is the hotly debated issue of the difference between the philosopher and the prophet? That is, the prophet uses the imagination. So it would seem to me that the prophet somewhat uses this same talent as the Kosein, right? But if this is the talent, it doesn't take you to true knowledge. You predict events, but that's not really the world of true knowledge, of universals, the world that philosophy deals with. So could either of you use your research to jump to any kind of conclusion about who is the superior?
So despite his age, I'm going to ask him to jump.
Yes.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I
I
mean,
tell
it
you what,
has
I tell you
larger,
what, I tell
obviously.
you the truth. I'm not philosopher. I'm theologian. My field is not philosophy. My field is legal, and I came to do with this topic just because I'm trying to discuss the relationship in Maimonides between, as I mentioned in the end of my paper, between poetry and halakha and philosophy. This is a combination of the Sufism, because I argue that Maimonides has a very strong polemics against Ghazali, even though he didn't mention his name even not one time. And so I came from a different field of, from the legal field, trying to explain, because I'm a retired person, and now I have the freedom to do whatever I want to do. So I jumped a little bit to poetry and, philosophy a little bit, but my main field is, so this question is not, I cannot answer you, about, philosophy and prophecy. It's not my safe ground.
My question, which will be in brief, will be the last one. We had a picture up on one of the screens of apples and oranges, one apple and I think a lot of oranges, I think. And of course, which gets us to analogy, which is an important part of the law. So, but on the other hand, the analogies, as Rabbi Akiva shows, can all be broken down. So there must be an element of imagination whenever you use a rule of analogy. So does Maimonides have some special terminology, A and B, that you're aware of in Arabic for when he has a positive use of imagination? For example, in analogies.
Reza Aviramavitsky, he can respond to you better than me. He could
Who's that from?
Okay,
I
good.
don't remember. I don't see any
Fine.
text that can support your argument.
I call the session to a close and invite immediately Tzvi Staffer, Alberto Friedberg, and James Diamond up. Then there'll be a break after.
Nice, maybe.
No.